Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad to see everyone here this morning. My name is Bonnie Marmer, and I'm standing here with my co-president of the Point San Pedro Road Coalition, Dr. Denise Lucy. And we're both going to welcome you this morning. I'm going to start out with having Denise make a few remarks. While she's talking, our webmaster is going to show a few slides. These are photos just from our neighborhood, our beautiful neighborhood that we all enjoy, and you'll probably see some scenes that you might recognize. Okay, Denise, take it.
Thank you so much. I'm a singer, so I have to do this. Is that okay? Yeah. Should I belt out a song?
Yeah.
I could do the Dominican Spirit song. No. Anyway, so it's really a pleasure. Thank you so much for getting up early and having the fantastic, beautiful food from Andy's Market, hosted by Sandy Mahoney. Sandy Mahoney, give it up for Sandy Mahoney. I think that it needed a robust thank you for Sandy Mahoney.
Yeah.
One more time. And Sandy, this is what, your 15th year supporting our community and getting up early and hosting us. Really, so much appreciated. It's really great. I also would like to make special thanks to Mike Wolpert. Everybody know Mike?
Yay, Mike!
Mike, let's give it up for Mike. He's volunteering his time today. He's our videographer. He's our video coach. He's also the president of the Peacock Gap HOA.
Go Peacock Gap.
Yes, we should have a song, Mike. We should come up with one.
A spirit song.
There you have it. And also our board members for the coalition. I wonder if you could just raise your hand. John Lenzer, who is Disaster Prep Chair. There you are, John. John is a great leader for the trailer that we all have in case we have an emergency with all of his team. Robert Sandoval, our Roadway Chair. Where are you? There you go. Thank you so much, Robert, for your support. Loch Lomond Marina and our coalition website. Alan Shavitz. Where are you, Alan? I'm telling you, Alan, how long ago? 20, at least years ago, you created the website.
I think it's been 50, 70 years.
75 years that he's created that website. Without it, we would be invisible, wouldn't we? Thank you so much. The Quarry, Dave Crutcher, our long-standing Quarry Chair, is here today. Thank you so much, Dave. He and I are sharing that privilege. But I do have to go to a wedding today. I shouldn't say that. I'm thrilled to go to a wedding today. But Dave's going to represent us. Thank you so much. And a Wetlands Chair, Winifred Dejani. Thank you, Winifred. And also, our Supervisor, Mary Sackett, is coming today. She'll be speaking at 10:15. Her associate is right here, Crystal Martinez. Thank you so much, Crystal, for being here. District 1. Mayor Kate, Maribeth Bushey, and City Manager John Stefanski will also be here. Oh, there I see you. Hi, good to see you in the back there. Hi, Maribeth. And then what we're doing differently this time, you'll see there's some tables on the left, my left, over here, where at the end of our presentations, we will have time where committee chairs will be at the tables, and you can come and speak with each of them, and just kind of get to know each other a little bit, maybe even volunteer. Anyone for volunteering? I'm hearing silent.
Yay!
Anyway, so thank you so very much, and I really want to give it up to Bonnie Marmer, who's put so much of her life into this. She's just such a dedicated one. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Appreciate it. And Katie, my dearest Katie. There you are, Katie Miller. Is our secretary, and here she is, Katie. And our treasurer, Kevin. Where's Kevin? There you are, Kevin. Good to see you, Kevin. Thank you for making sure the money is all right. And also, I want you to know that we're going to have some rules about how we proceed from speaker to speaker. Okay, so we're going to do a practice round, right? Ready? So when there's 5 minutes left of your speaking, you're going to show a little sign, right? To the speakers. There you go. And then you might do a slight, pleasant. And then when there's 1 minute remaining, you do the same. And you'll do one. And then when you're finished, it will be. Thank you so much for volunteering to support us. So here we go. We're going to proceed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you, Leilani, for stepping in as our timekeeper. Another thanks to my husband, Bill Gates, who's signing folks in at the front. So I want to acknowledge everybody who has helped to make this day possible and worked with us over many years. All the donors who have been so supportive of this organization, which is a nonprofit. As such, we present lots of educational programs. And it is election season. We actually have some candidates here today. We also want to remind you, if you haven't decided who to vote for, you can go to our website. And on the homepage, you'll find the link to our candidates forum where we featured all of the local candidates. So that can help you sort it out if you're still undecided. But we also have so much more on our website. I'll leave that to our webmaster to tell you a little bit about. I'd like to stay on schedule today, so I want to make sure that we get going here with our coalition committee reports. Just wanted to encourage everyone to remember we are a nonprofit. If you're so inclined to donate, you can do that also on our website. Before we start, I'd like to just take a quick show of hands to see how many of you have attended one of our annual meetings before. All right. And how many of you have attended other events that have been sponsored by the coalition? That's great, whether they're field trips to see our wetlands or anything. Okay. And then how many people are brand new? This is their first time. Well, welcome, and we're so glad you're here. Thank you so much, and without any further ado, I'd like to start this morning with our disaster prep leader, John Lenzer. He has done amazing work since taking over the leadership of this committee. So thank you, John.
Thank you, Bonnie. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you. I think most of you probably received emails from us asking for donations to our latest campaign this past summer. We had set a goal for raising approximately $6,000, and at the end of the summer, we had already raised $12,000. So thank you. People were very generous. We had a couple of gifts that were well over $2,000, and that really adds up and helps us. Now, why are we doing all this? When you think about disasters that might befall us, you have to keep in mind we're in a unique position in the county. We have one road that goes into China Camp, one that goes out past the high school. Let's say the worst case scenario is an earthquake, and that's really what keeps me awake at night, is a major earthquake, because this road is probably going to be impossible to traverse either direction, and we're going to be on our own. We have Station 55 out here with 2 people, 3 people maybe on call. The whole city at any one time only has about 27 paramedics and firemen on call. So we need to be somewhat self-sufficient for a period of time before the outside world can arrive. And you can figure that this could be days. If you study what happened in earthquakes down in Houston and other places, it took weeks before public services really got going and people didn't have to be on their own. So, what did we spend our money on? Please go look at the red trailer out here. That has about half of the supplies that we've purchased, and the red trailer has sufficient medical supplies in it to actually set up a triage center, and we hope medical professionals will respond to that trailer. We'll set up a triage center in a tent wherever it's needed. We also have the other half of the supplies in a shed over at San Pedro Cove, and we can set up a triage center at San Pedro Cove, and people will be able to come there hopefully for first aid and medical when they can't be taken out of here. And we even have a stretcher now that a helicopter can lift up and take people out if we need that. So in any case, thank you for pitching in on that. What we secondly need is volunteers, because that trailer doesn't do much good if we don't have people that are skilled in rescuing, going into people's homes where they need to be taken out. We don't have medical professionals who are going to respond. So please volunteer. We have a sheet on the table over here that allows you to sign up for our committee. We have an active committee of about 20 people that regularly meet and work on these various issues. And the issues are training. We have to train people in CERT, rescue. We have to train people in CPR and all those kinds of things. And we train people in how to, have a go bag that's ready to go if they have to evacuate. We look at what other services are going to be here. Andy's Market and others. Are they prepared to provide services if there was a power outage, internet didn't work, and all those kinds of things? So we work on those issues. So there's a variety of issues, and I ask you to get involved with our committee and turn out when we do notify you of meetings that are going to happen. Make your communities fire-wise. That's another part of our program, is making your homes have a zone around them so that they don't catch on fire when there's an earthquake or some other sort of a wildfire coming over the hill, which is probably inevitable. So there's a lot of different aspects that we do work on. So be prepared for all those things.
Thank you, John. I think, as I said, he's done a terrific job, and as he just mentioned. They do help the individual neighborhoods with training so that the neighborhoods can become fire-wise, and we've had trainings on how to form neighborhood response groups. So if your neighborhood isn't organized, contact John and see if he can, give some pointers on how your neighborhood can be better prepared for a fire. Also, one thing that we have done for many years is have our annual weed pull, which is kind of my favorite thing to do, get out there and pull weeds with the assistance of folks from the fire department. It's a lot of fun, great way to learn about our environment, great way to meet neighbors and to help make our neighbors safer. All right, so our next speaker will be our Roadway Chair, Robert Sandoval, who also serves on our board. And Robert, come on up. Okay.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thanks for being here. The issue of the year for us in 2023 was really roadway safety and speeding on Point San Pedro. So we had a goal of meeting as a community. We held 2 open meetings. Well, I should say, I think the goal I think we satisfied our goal. I think I'm very happy with the meetings we had. We had 2. We had almost 20 people attend these meetings who were representing different areas along the Point San Pedro corridor. And we explored various topics like lane widths, restriping, bike lanes, parking. And I just want to start by saying thank you to everyone who attended those meetings. It's a big help. It's really the way that we take our feedback from those meetings and we go and talk to the city and the county, and that's how we really get our voices heard as a community here, so it means a lot. And I'm looking forward to our committee continuing to work with the city and county on these issues into 2025. On the medians, we have a medians subcommittee that oversees our medians along the corridor. And we're continuing to hold regular check-ins with the city to oversee those medians to make sure they look nice and that they're mulched and that the weeds are pulled. There's always work to be done there. We've been using See, Click, Fix. It's an online platform, and everyone's welcome to use that to report any problems with the medians. The city's very receptive to our concerns there. But on the medians, I really want to just have a special shout out to Jim Dixon. I don't know, for those who don't know, he has provided years of service to the community overseeing the medians. He recently stepped down, and I just want to thank Jim so much for all the work he's done. If the medians look a lot worse, it's because I haven't lived up to Jim's leadership on it yet. He's done such a great job there. And I would encourage anyone who is interested in helping out with the medians to step up and talk to me after, because we could use the help. And then I guess I want to take some time to put on my Park and Rec Commission. I'm a Park and Rec Commissioner for the City of San Rafael. I would put on that hat for a second. There was recently I think the issue that people are most concerned with in Peacock Gap is that the Peacock Gap Park, we had Measure A funding in July. The commission reviewed a design for a new playground in Peacock Park. So I just wanted to say a little more on the timeline there. So the design plan was approved. We had in June, the community met. There was 200 people or so that met at the park and voted on different design options. And the anticipated final design will be the end of 2024. Construction is anticipated to start in early 2025. And the goal is to finish the playground in the spring of 2025. So right now, that's still the anticipated timeline. And that's all for my report, Bonnie. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And again, as Denise mentioned, you can engage with our committee chairs and committee members at the end of this event. The last half hour we've dedicated to having a Q&A with our committees. So please stay so that you can ask your questions, volunteer your services, give us input on your priorities. It's really important that we hear from you. So we've changed our format of this meeting. We've done it a little differently in the past, but we wanted to reserve that time for input and Q&A with our committees right over there where John Lenzer's sitting right now. So at this point, I'd like Alan Shavitz to come up to fill us in on the Loch Lomond Marina Committee as well as our coalition website.
Here I thought I was going last, and I was going to say last and least. First on the website, I'm sure most of you have been to the website. There's a wealth of information there, past and present, and it's always updated as we get more information, and we put posts up for things that are happening, as well as getting on our email list and getting the emails we send out, not that frequently, so you don't get inundated with email, but they're useful for the local environment. Also looking for any input to the website. If you have information that should go on the website, if you have historical information about the Point San Pedro Road corridor, we do have a historical section on the website with some old pictures and information about how we got to be where we are. So if you have any of that in your stash, I'd love to see it. And then thirdly, if you have any interest in learning how to manage and maintain websites and email lists and whatever, I'm always looking for help. So if you'd like to get involved in that, I'm happy to be a teacher and teach you how those things get done. In terms of the Loch Lomond Marina this year, basically earlier this year, we kind of wrapped it up. The Point San Pedro Road Coalition Marina Committee active involvement as that construction came to its conclusion. However, there are still some issues we are paying attention to in the marina area that are not strictly local issues to be dealt with by the Strand, which is the HOA there, or the Village at Loch Lomond Marina, which is the overriding association that handles all the owners in on that property, which would be Andy's Market, and by extension the currently abandoned building that Andy owns, the Safe Harbor Marinas, which owns the marinas, the yacht club and the boat launch, and the HOA there, which is the Strand. The few issues that are remaining that we're looking into, one is cleaning the area along the wetlands, which is full of Scotch broom. We've been trying to actively push to get that area cleared. There's been some contention between the Strand HOA, the Village Association, and the city as to who has responsibility in that area to clear that out. So we're trying to get those issues resolved and get that work done. There are some issues with regard to the fencing along Point San Pedro Road and whether or not that meets the original specifications for the area, which was to be open fencing with picket fencing. We're looking to see if that's something that we should be involved in. So that's really kind of all the things that we have going. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. As Denise said, we couldn't do this without Alan. He's just been invaluable for the 15 years that he's been doing this for us, so thank you. Some of you may know that the San Rafael Rock Quarry is what brought this community together many, many years ago. The coalition started over 20 years ago. I've been involved for 20 years, and Dave Crutcher, come on up. He's been involved for, 17 years, whatever. And he's going to just give us a little history and some information. I think times have changed. and you can talk about that.
Yes, times have changed. And we thought we'd do something a little bit different here today because the neighborhood changes. People come and people go. And certainly some people out here probably have never heard sort of a general summary of the history of the quarry. So we thought it might be useful to do that. And also some of the quarry-related topics are being addressed in some of the other modules, including, I think Winifred's going to address the marsh and all. So I'm going to do sort of very quick and try to speak very quickly history of all this, and hopefully it'll make sense. The quarry has been a mine since the late 19th century, with rock quarrying beginning somewhere around 1920. So it's been pulling rock out of there for easily over 100 years or so. Skipping forward 60 years or so, the county rezoned the site from industrial to mixed residential and commercial in 1982. And they did that on the assumption that the quarry was going to close down in 1994 because the previous owners had made that indication. They suggested that the quarry was going to close down and they were going to redevelop the site. So what the county did then is they rezoned the site from industrial to mixed residential and commercial in anticipation of that closure. That was in 1982, and that made the site what was called a non-conforming use, which means that what they were doing out there, mining, was inconsistent with its zoning status, which is legal because you can't go in and zone a business out of existence. There's constitutional issues with that. But it did mean that they could only do what they were doing at the time that it was rezoned. In fact, what happened, the quarry a couple of years later, I believe it was in 1985, was sold to the Dutra family, the Dutra group, and they did not close the mine, as we all know. They continued to operate the quarry and still do. And what also happened in the 90s was that the quarry's use was intensified. So not only did it not close in 1994, but it sort of ramped up what it was doing out there. And that led to a lawsuit in 2001 where the state of California and the county of Marin and the coalition, which is probably one of its first things that it got involved in, sued the quarry for illegally expanding beyond what the use allowed. Now, the suit's main issue was whether the mine could continue to operate, since there was some suggestion it was going to close. But if it could operate, what was the scope of its use? And the court, in a 2004 decision, decided a number of things. One of the things it decided was that the quarry had a vested right to keep mining pretty much indefinitely. There was no constraint on that, or no requirement that it shut down at any particular time. The court also determined that the quarry could not properly, or had not properly been monitored by the county to ensure that it was operating in compliance with local and state law. The county had not done a good job of regulating the quarry's operation. Also, the quarry operations had intensified over the years in excess of its non-conforming use. And finally, that the quarry's amended reclamation plan was out of date. And a reclamation plan is a plan that all California mines have to have. I'm not a mining lawyer, but my understanding is that all of them have to have reclamation plans that determine what the site will be used for after mining closes, whenever that may be. Now, the court directed the parties to sort of work it out, and that resulted in a 6-year process of updating the permit and the reclamation plan. In 2010, both an amended reclamation plan and a new permit was approved by the county. The amended reclamation plan, the 2010 plan, had projected that the quarry would shut down in 2024, that they would blow out a side of the bowl would be flooded, the result would be a boat harbor around which there would be development like condos and businesses and whatnot. Now, obviously that didn't happen. What did happen was, as we approached 2024, I believe it was in 2021, the quarry came forward and asked the county to extend the ability to, I guess, the right to mine, it's more of a formality than anything, out to 2044, which was approved by the county. And so now The rec plan takes it out to 2044. So they never had an obligation to close down in 2024 this year, but they did, if they weren't going to close down, they had to update the rec plan, which they did, and that now takes it out to 2044. The plan nominally is still the same, to blow out the bowl and flood it and all that. Whether that actually happens is another question, but that is the written plan. Also approved in 2010 was a new operating permit, which is probably most pertinent for us here as residents. That permit can be accessed on the website. If you click around the query site, you can easily get to the permit and read all those conditions. And there are 172 operating conditions that govern how the quarry operates. And just a couple of them that you might be interested in. The general hours of the quarry are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. No noise producing activity past 5 p.m. They can have maintenance on up to 10 Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 10 Saturdays per year. And there's additional hours for barge loading if that's necessary. They can blast up to 3 days a week between the hours of 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. In practice, they're blasting far less than 3 days a week, probably not even 1 day a week. But, and it's always around 11:30, 11:35, somewhere in there. And there's a lot of other conditions that are in there. There's additional rules for emergencies, and in fact, in the last couple of weeks, they declared an emergency for a levee project that was up in the Delta. I don't think they actually had to increase their operations much for that, but I read in the paper yesterday there's another emergency. I don't know if they're going to be involved in that, but they can be, and they can go 24/7 if there's a levee emergency. There haven't been very many of them over the years. There are production limits of 1.4 million tons a year that can be produced in the quarry. That's on a 5-year rolling average basis. Any particular year, they can go up to 1.7 million tons a year as long as they stick to the 1.4 rolling 5-year average. For context, up till 2021 or so, they've not been producing, the production has been much less than the maximum of 1.4, somewhere around 25% or so. But in 2021, it was 346,000 tons, which is about a quarter of their limit. 2022, it went up to 481,000 tons. In 2023, 675,000 tons. And this is all coming out of their report. Now, the 675 in 2023 is about half their production limit, so they've been on the upswing lately. There's also truck trips are limited to about exactly 125 round trips per day. There are other conditions relating to air quality, noise, maximum mining depth in the bowl, and myriad other things. And these conditions have much diminished the effects of operating the quarry in the neighborhood. And I think people who were here 20, 25 years ago would say things are a heck of a lot better than they were way back then. So those conditions have helped. We're currently discussing with the quarry issues relating to the health of the marsh, road maintenance, and air quality. Marsh and the road will be addressed in other segments here, but air quality, they completed a study about 4 or 5 years ago that determined that the quarry was not producing air quality problems that was a significant risk to the neighborhood. The coalition's always had a concern that study was done at a time when production was about a quarter of its maximum, and so as production ramps up, we're discussing with them the possibility of having more air quality testing. But there's been no agreement on that at this point. So we'll see how production goes and how those discussions go. So in summary, the quarry has a vested right to mine. The permit conditions have been a big success since they were implemented in 2010. And our working relationship with quarry management is quite good. We're constantly discussing issues with them, and we think that will continue. Thanks.
Wow, that was a lot of information, wasn't it? Thank you, Dave. You did a great job of summarizing it, and we're always pleased to see the Dutras here joining us, and thank you for coming this morning. And as Dave said, we're going to continue to discuss issues. Our next speaker is Winifred DeJohnny. As mentioned by Dave, there are wetlands at the quarry, so she's been working on issues around those wetlands and other wetlands, and she's really done a fabulous job with the Wetland Committee. So, Winifred.
Thank you, Bonnie. And thank you, Dave, for that very succinct but revisiting of that whole history. And thank you all for being here today. Well, I am the chairwoman of the Wetlands Committee. And just by nature of our community is along Point San Pedro Road and it hugs the shore. And so most of us live in areas that are interspersed amongst these, very important wetlands in our community. And they're important for several reasons, one of which is habitat. We all enjoy the wildlife that lives there, most noticeably bird populations that migrate in and breed, and bird populations that are here year-round. But there's other important value to them, which is they sequester carbon, which is very good in this time of increased global warming. They also serve to filter the water that comes into the bay. They're very effective at filtering water, cleaning it as it comes in. And then also, ever-increasing importance is sea level rise. And wetlands have been shown to be a very effective way at mitigating sea level rise, in addition to traditional things like hard barriers and cement riprap. So we do have 5 significant parcels of wetlands interspersed within our community, starting with the Quarry Marsh. That's about a 55-acre parcel, and then moving in this direction, you have our only freshwater wetland area, which abuts the Glenwoods Elementary School. Then there's one on Beach Drive, one at Loch Lomond Marina, and then there's one at the end of Bay Way. And so those are what most of our focus is on. And our mission in the Wetlands Committee is really to educate people and to get them involved in the wetlands and really, appreciate how important they are. And so we meet bi-monthly, and then we also host at least 2 events every year. They're either webinars or we've taken field trips. We've taken field trips out to see the swifts at the Brickyard. And we've taken birding field trips around the area to see the bird life. And then also just educational webinars. So this year, 2 webinars that we hosted that were very interesting was one, the Marin Country Breeding Bird Atlas, which is a survey of all the breeding birds in Marin County that was first undertaken in the 1970s. They did an update over the course of 3 years, mostly through volunteers, to count all the breeding bird population, bring it up to date, and do a comparison with what the breeding bird population was like 3 or 4 decades ago. So we hosted that. And then we had another very interesting webinar with senior Marin County engineer Roger Leventhal that discussed and showed examples of nature-based solutions for local eroding shorelines and other shorelines, and how those can complement or even be a very viable and effective alternative to the methods that are used currently. So in terms of what we've been engaged with this year, as Dave said, we have very good ongoing communication with the quarry. We meet with their team fairly regularly. And as he mentioned, they are currently undertaking a marsh restoration plan that we've met with them about, and they have agreed to have a third-party peer review, which has been completed. It's been done by Stuart Siegel, who's a very highly respected coastal wetland specialist. And so it's available now. We're both going to review it and meet and see if there are areas of agreement we could come to maybe make those wetlands, that parcel, a little bit more vibrant in terms of habitat, and also potentially maybe an area that birds would find attractive for breeding. And then in addition to that, the Glenwood wetland parcel, it's owned by the San Rafael City Schools District. They recently designated it as surplus property, offered it up for bids, proposals by like a first tier of community organizations. And so we are very involved in doing outreach with the community, getting people involved, seeing what their thoughts were about it, and seeing what kind of proposals might be submitted. So right now, that's in the hands of the district. We haven't really heard, what the process is or what the decisions have been regarding that parcel, so we're waiting to be informed by them, what the status of that is. So in short, if you want to be involved or learn more about the wetlands, you can stop by our table after the show. And please go to our website, which is a treasure trove of information. We have recordings of all our past webinars at sprcoalition.org. There's lots of good information there. And I think that about sums it up.
Thank you, Winifred. Winifred, too, has just done a fabulous job with this committee. And I also want to thank all of the committee members. Oh my gosh, we have so many committee members here today. They are members of the various committees. Please stand up if you have been involved in any of our committee activities. I want to say thank you. So please stand up, all of you who have been on our committees. I know there's some come on, disaster prep people, and people that have worked on our weed polls. There's a lot of you that are not standing up. Come on, I know you. Hey, raise your hand at least. Way more than this. I'm going to call you out. Russ, come on. Anyway, I appreciate all of you for all of the work that you have done, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you, and please do stay. Talk about what you like, what you want, what your questions are, what your ideas are, and what you can suggest for the future for us. At this time, I want to turn the program over to Supervisor Mary Sackett, our representative on the Board of Supervisors. She's going to speak to us, and we'll have an opportunity to do Q&A at the end of her presentation. Supervisor Sackett has been just really supportive of our organization and our community, and she has met with us regularly. We sit down and talk over issues. I don't want to take any of her time. We're a couple minutes behind schedule. We're trying to keep on track. So thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. And you want me to open up for questions now
At
as part of this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I have. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for coming out on a Saturday morning. I always like to start with a little bit of a civics lesson, and if you're here, you probably don't need it, but I think it always lays the groundwork. So I represent you on the 5-member board of the County Board of Supervisors, and we handle a lot of the overarching county issues, so things like the Public Defender's Office, the Sheriff's Office, the Health and Human Services, which we saw a lot of public health issues, the Elections Department. Hopefully you have all mailed in your ballot or will in the next couple of days. The voting centers are open now around the county. You can go to any of them. It's not like it used to be where there was just, the neighborhood church. You can go to any of those voting centers between now and 8 p.m. on Tuesday to cast your ballots. Those are the kind of things that the county does. And then in the unincorporated areas, the county, I'm also handle some of those municipal functions like the roadways, the stop signs, and drainage issues, tree issues, those kind of things. I am very fortunate to have a staff of 2 people, Julia Reinhardt and then Crystal Martinez, who's here today with me, and they are amazing, very engaged in our community in a number of fronts. Crystal's a representative on the College of Marin Board of Trustees as well, and oftentimes they are going to get your questions answered the most quickly. But if you have any questions, please, we are here to serve you and to answer your questions. And if you're like, what agency and what is this, a city or a county, reach out to Crystal and we'll help navigate those issues or get you to the right person. I just want to start really by saying you have an amazing coalition that advocates on the community's behalf. I do really appreciate the opportunity to meet with the coalition quarterly. I love seeing the trailer out here and being able to walk through that. You're lucky. Not all neighborhoods are as organized with as strong advocates, and I hope we don't have a disaster, but if we do, you've got people who've been thinking about these things for a long time and to help you prepare. So this is one of the, just wanted to show a couple of pictures with some staff from the city of San Rafael and some county staff and myself. We went to 101 Surf Sports and rented kayaks, and actually they let us use the kayaks and stand-up paddleboards. And we took some folks from the Army Corps of Engineers out and paddled from 101 Surf Sports out to the bay to really look at what the infrastructure is along the water. It's daunting. There's a lot of seawalls in various conditions. I think what really the magnitude of looking at that waterway from the water side is you see how many landowners there are and sort of how difficult it is going to be to adapt to sea level rise, because we don't, it's one thing if it's the city owns the entire length of the channel and you could, go out for funding and try to do it in one fell swoop. But there's a lot of different ownerships and there's a lot of different ages of the seawalls that really protect a significant amount of our housing in this community. So I'm continually working with Army Corps. We don't have a plan, we don't have a project on, I shouldn't say we don't have a plan. We don't have a project at the moment, but it's about building those relationships and really just educating the decision makers in different funding places, because we will need federal funding when we go out for that. So it's a county-wide issue. Sea level rise, you all know about China Camp Road, you know about the flooding issues that you have along this corridor, and then the significant flooding challenges that could come to the San Rafael Canal. So the county has developed a sea level rise county-wide overview and plan. So San Mateo County did this. They created a tax structure in order to figure out how do we pay for these things. We know that there's significant infrastructure that's going to have to be addressed as sea level rises, and we're just at this stage of trying to figure out how do we address this. Because we know when the sea rises, it's not going to say, hey, that's in Corte Madera, that's not our problem, or that's, on the 101, so, and it's in Larkspur, so it's not an issue to San Rafael. As the waters come up, it's going to impact all of us, and we got to think about, we're looking at unprecedented dollars to address some of these issues, so we're really looking at that governance structure countywide. And I won't read all of this, but it's really figuring out how do we build on the efforts, how do we work collaboratively across jurisdictions, and a lot of our municipal functions, sanitary districts, water treatment facilities, and so forth are in the areas that will be impacted by this. So Mayor Kate and I serve on the SMART Board of Directors, and I know over the years that's been an area of consternation for this neighborhood sometimes because of the ability to get through San Rafael. We're always looking at that issue. The couple things I just want to highlight is ridership is up. SMART is free for youth and seniors, and yet we still had a 12% increase in ridership even with those free fares for the people who pay. So we have 30% increase in ridership overall with 12% growth as well. We now have a bike share opportunity, so you can check out a white bicycle at some of the stops, and that is really to help people get the first and last mile to their work or to their jobs, so they can use that as a commuting option. So that's the SMART part. And then the coalition leadership asked me to talk a little bit about Point San Pedro Road, that I know is a big issue. Robert spoke about a little bit, and I know the city will speak of too, but we're really looking at, we're gonna need a new coating, slurry seal, in the very near future. And so we're looking at a joint charter between the city and the county to potentially go out for one contractor to do that work. And so we are in the process between our public works teams in order to move forward with that, while also considering all of the constraints that this roadway has, including the quarry, which is has a major industrial at one end of it, and we've got a lot of road users, we have more and more families and people on bikes and walking, and how do we plan for all of that? There's not a simple solution. But what we are doing, and if you want to show the map, is we've gone out for a joint study between the city and the county that would look at the entire corridor from the west side of 101 out through China Camp and sort of look at all the measurements, all of the constraints, all the possibilities, all the parking, all of those uses, and look at it as a whole, because we have at times looked at sort of what's happening in front of Bayside Park, what's happening in this section, what's happening in that section, and how do we look at it as a whole. So we've applied for that grant jointly just in the last couple of weeks, and we hope to hear back in the spring of this next year. Regardless, we continue to work together and move through lots of pieces of this. So leadership had also asked about the speed study. I know the county did do a couple of speed studies where they look at sort of the prevailing speeds throughout the corridor in the unincorporated areas, and we found that the speed limit posting signs were essentially accurate, right? So 85% of the people, and I'm not a traffic engineer, I will tell you, so I'm not gonna go too deep on this, but the people were traveling within that 85th percentile of the posted speed limits. So we don't anticipate changing any speed limits at this point in time. But again, if we look at that corridor-wide study, that's another opportunity to really look at whether that needs to be changed. So the slurry seal project, we're hoping will happen in 2025, 2026, and we're working, with the city on efficiency and just the impact that that project will have and how do we move forward. And then here, there's a lot of information up here, but wanted to share that at Summit Avenue, there will be an installation of one of these hawk lights. This is from the town of Tiburon, but it's similar to the one that's above, near San Rafael High, so that if there's pedestrians crossing there on that pedestrian walkway, there will be a hawk flashing light to allow for more safety and visibility there. And just really want to reiterate that before any project, any changes to the roadway happen, we will absolutely work not only with the city, but with the quarry and the Dutras to make sure that all of those issues are part of the table. We'll work with the roadway committee and ensure that we're hearing from all roadway users. And so expect that to be coming forward. There won't be changes without hearing from you all first. So switching from slurry seals so the county, with a lot of city help and service providers' help, in one dark morning in January, we go out at 4 in the morning and we endeavor to count all the folks experiencing homelessness in the county. We are just seeing the results of that count, and we are seeing a decrease in the number of people experiencing homelessness in our county. We're seeing a 24% decrease in those folks who are chronically homeless. We're seeing a 12% decrease in families experiencing homelessness, and we're seeing more people in sheltered beds. So they may still be considered homeless, but they are, they've got some form of shelter. And we are to nearly zero on veterans homelessness. There's been a new facility opened at Homeward Bound in Nevada, which we have a number of vouchers, et cetera, in order to house veterans. And we know that you still see people experiencing homelessness, and there's still a lot of work to do. You may have seen this morning's headline. We got a significant grant from the state of California, and it was announced April, and we're still waiting for that funding to come through. We expect it will come through in the next couple weeks. So we know there's a lot of work to do. We know people don't want to see those experiencing homelessness, and we also know that nobody wants to live on the street. So how do we bring our services and our efforts together to address that? And I will say, I think the city and the county are in a place, in a good place, in a better place than we have been in a long time, and really working together with our community partners to move that forward. I want to give you a quick update on Tuesday night. The County of Marin Board of Supervisors did pass an ordinance that creates the civilian oversight of the Sheriff's Department. This is something that the community has been asking for a long time. It will create an Inspector General and a civilian oversight committee of 9 people that have the opportunity that if there are issues with the Sheriff's Department that they have the opportunity to do an independent investigation. I want to start by saying we don't have major issues with our Sheriff's Department. This isn't they're bad actors and we're trying to change that, but it's really about building collaboration with the community in the Sheriff's Department and looking for opportunities to build trust. So that passed, we did our first reading of that ordinance on Tuesday, and I'll just quickly show a timeline. We'll take that up for a second reading and a final vote, and then we go about the business of creating the civilian oversight group. And so if you know of people who may be interested in serving on that, the opportunity to apply for that commission will be coming up, and then hiring an inspector general. And so and through each of those steps, we do negotiate with our unions who represent the deputies. And so it's a long process, but I think at the end of the day, we will have a great collaboration between the Sheriff's Office and the community, and a greater opportunity there. So those are sort of the highlights that I wanted to cover, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have on things that I might have missed or you want more detail on. Yeah.
I have two questions. One might have been better asked of Robert earlier, but you said Summit Avenue and one of these new gizmos. You didn't mention the cross street. I take it as our road.
Yes.
And will that, whatever the thing is called,
Hawk.
Will it be smart and recognize that traffic on Summit Avenue is 0, or will it be 30 seconds for one side and 30 seconds for the other?
So it's really timing for the pedestrians. And so, yes, it will be timed to, and if you think of the one in front of San Rafael High where it's pushed and then, gives an opportunity and probably more than a fast walker needs. So there's, yes, engineering comes up with the time of, sort of folks need in order to cross that road.
Okay. And then my second question, again, maybe earlier I should have asked it, but there was no discussion about the trucks, the Dutra trucks, and them going 40 miles an hour, which is I'm not sure if that's right or not, but that's a lot faster than me going at 40 miles an hour. Is there anything we can do to slow them down a little bit, because they can wreak havoc if they don't make the turn or whatever? There was a bicyclist that was hit yesterday on the road. I'm not saying about the trucks, but it's the kind of thing that can happen. Those trucks always seem to me to be going too fast.
So there's not an easy answer to that, but what I will say is that when we did the speed surveys, it didn't differentiate between a truck and a regular car, but found that most people were complying with the speed limit. So I would say that if there was a real outlier there as far as speed, that would have been picked up in the speed surveys. But I think, when we think about the corridor as a whole, it's a really big factor, right? Whether they are going faster or they just feel like they're going faster because they're bigger and louder and you think, I don't want to be hit by that. That's what, things like a speed survey and just even sight lines really consider. Is it the perception or is it the reality? I know that the Dutras are very cognizant of the customers that they have coming in and don't want to see any issues either. But we aren't, at least our surveys are not seeing a significant speeding by those trucks. Yeah. Yeah.
Just on the subject, one of the problems with the trucks is the amount of noise that they create. So a car at 40 is a lot quieter than a truck at 40. And there are multiple places in the country that have different speed limits for trucks and cars. Could that be implemented?
I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm looking at the Dutras right beside you. I don't know the answer to that question, but as we look at the corridor study, we will look at all those issues, and I appreciate you bringing that forward, and we will talk about it for sure.
And I have one other question.
Okay.
Sorry, okay. And I'm not sure whether it should be for you and whether questions will be allowed for Mayor Kate. So it really is to do with City Council. Should I ask that now or wait?
If it's about the City Council, I think it's Mayor Kate and Councilmember Bushey who are coming up right after me. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I have a point to make about these new signals, and that's that nobody knows how to use them. The one at the high school just slows the whole road down because people stop because it's a crosswalk. They only need to stop if the lights are steady red. And I think that putting a crosswalk in and not enforcing it with the kids are walking against their red light and blocking up the whole road. And I think we need an education for drivers that says you don't need to stop at a crosswalk now because it's a metering device that lets you go through and stops you for the kids to go through. So I think the one they put in the high schools have been a disaster.
Yeah.
And I think that all of us drivers need training on how to use it.
Sounds like a good opportunity to do a short video that we can share with coalition members and share, amongst the area of like, how do you use these things? I mean, I think as we're seeing more roundabouts, all the British people are like, you people don't know how to use a roundabout. So I think there's an opportunity, and maybe really as we look at putting in a new one, that's an opportunity to say, hey, let's do some short educational pieces, not only to the residents who are driving, but also to the teenagers who are crossing.
Or maybe a policeman at the high school that cites people for jaywalking, basically, if they walk against that red light. I mean, the next street, if you have a green light and somebody's in the sidewalk, you don't stop for them. You have a green light, and basically, while that light is not solid red, you have the green light. And I don't think people realize that. And the kids just, they walk through it until somebody won't stop, and then they push the button, which kind of defeats the whole metering of it. So it's
Educating the teens is a harder issue.
I know they're asking us for school money, and then they're, it just.
Let's
kids.
talk. Yeah, kids these days. I have my own teenagers, and I'm sure they wouldn't listen to me if I told them to do that. But Katie.
On the oversight of the sheriff.
Yeah.
And the inspector general, is that a paid position or simply a member of the committee?
It's a paid position, a separate person. And that person, so the inspector general will have more authority as far as obtaining and reviewing records than the community group would necessarily have. Yeah.
Has there been any thought to building a pedestrian bridge at the high school?
There's been at the high school, so over.
Instead of the off signal lights, a pedestrian bridge where kids could cross over, no stopping of traffic.
I'm sure there's been thought on it. Funding for those kind of things and land acquisitions is not insignificant. So I mean, just to be perfectly frank, I don't know that we're going to be able to do that in any short order, but we're always looking at pedestrian and bicycle safety and roadway efficiency. Alan.
Just one point you made about the slurry coating of the on St. Peter Road. You said 25, 26. I understood that it was going to be in 25. Is that slipped?
I don't believe that it's slipped. My understanding is it's, the way it's ranking on the project list, they're saying 25, 26. So I'm optimistic and I'm going to continue to push for 2025. A lot of pieces still have to come together between then. I don't want you to believe that it's going to be, as soon as the first of the year is over, but we are significantly moving forward. Yeah.
One of the reasons being concerned is that the road deterioration is getting to the point where repaving might even be necessary if it delays too much longer.
And that's what's adding that urgency to get it done. Yeah. So we don't have to do a more reconstructive project. Yeah.
Yes, I saw in the Richmond, the Independent Journal, that you voted $500,000 for a study, and I wonder if you could tell us more about that, what the study's for. Is that for the seawall and what?
Can you tell me a little bit more about what study you're talking about?
I wasn't clear what the study was about.
in today's paper?
It's a consultant, was hired to review all of the operations and provide recommendations.
Peeling the onion by the county manager.
Sorry. There's a lot of different, so that study in particular, so we have a very large Department of Public Works, we have a very large community development agency, and then the Board of Supervisors sits on the Marin Housing Authority, which is not under the county umbrella, yet we all sit on that. And so what that study is about is really to look at the organization. So, and to make sure we're efficiently working together and that the right things are in the right place. And so let me give you an example. So the Department of Public Works also oversees all the county procurement. It also oversees all the zero waste efforts and the efforts with our, with Marin Sanitary and the garbage fees and so forth. And it also oversees the CUPA, which is if there's an oil spill like we had in Terra Linda last year. And it's a lot for one department head to manage that in addition to roads, sea level, flood districts, and traffic. And so what we're in, organizations form, department heads have a job, and then things get added over the years, and we haven't really looked at that in 25 years to say, does it still make sense for Public Works to be doing procurement? So that's what that study is about. I know it seems a little boring and wonky, but we have a new county administrator who we had a county administrator for 20 years who put us in a great financial position, and you always kind of have to relook and say, are we doing things as efficiently and effectively as we can? There's, AI and different technologies and so forth, so that's what that study is about. And then with the Marin Housing Authority, they're a separate entity, yet we serve on it. And we're looking at we're moving forward with revitalizing Golden Gate Village in Marin City, and that would, just look at once that happens and that switches from public housing into a project-based vouchers of whether we need a separate housing authority or whether that should be brought into the county work. So that's what that is. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question in reference to Roadway. Part of it is Kentfield, and as you come down Roadway, part of it is San Rafael, and I pretty much come down it every day. Some of the trees are very dangerous.
So can I just stop you real quick and ask if you can hold that for my friends in the city, because it's not a county area, as far as I know, unless they're going to tell me I don't believe it's a county area, and I don't have the specifics about it. If you don't mind, okay. Yeah.
On the hot light.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that, even though this is probably the city of San Rafael, but if you do design one, for the life of me, I can't figure out what the aluminum and the fencing, because you can't see the kids, so all of a sudden they just pop out. Why wouldn't you want them to be more visible, so they're in the middle island instead of hiding them? I don't know if I'm missing something there, why that aluminum's around the top, the fence wouldn't hold up to a car, so being visible would be good, if you can see the kids.
I appreciate that. I don't know why the traffic engineers design what they do. I imagine it's so the kids don't just sort of slide out into it, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
I want to get back to the slurry that's coming up, and I want to know, I've done a little math. I watched the trucks go by, trucks and trucks and trucks. So every truck going out empty is about 6 cars, and everyone leaving is about 15. And I want to know, are they covering that cost? I mean, we're all paying for that road. Is there just, I know that Dutra, I believe, gives us some material that we hardly ever use, but are they paying for the use of the road?
I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I do know that Dutra contributes a lot of materials that are, as donations to school projects, to projects at China Camp. There's a lot of work there. Oh, they want me to stop, but I'm gonna. But I also, I know that they also contributed the last time the roadway was done, and they're certainly at the table talking to us as this new slurry seal goes forward. and pay into our tax base, which helps pay for this as well on a significant basis. All right. I'm not trying to walk away from your question, but I heard the bell, so I'll pass it off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very informative, and I very much appreciate it. Again, I don't know whether you will be staying on or not, but let me just say that for those of you who didn't get your questions answered, please stay after. The city will be doing a Q&A. There's some overlap of issues here. As far as the quarry and the roadway, we are continuing in negotiations with the quarry team about the very issue you just raised. So please stay and talk to us about how that's going and what the issues may be. And this is our opportunity to have that Q&A person to person at the end of this meeting. So we welcome your questions and further discussion. At this time, I am delighted to introduce the Mayor of San Rafael, Colin, and our representative on the City Council, Maribeth Bushey, and our Assistant City Manager, John Stefanski. So the three of them have the next 45 minutes, and that's
45 minutes? Oh my gosh, everyone has to stand up and stretch or something.
I think that's a great idea.
You guys have been sitting for an hour.
So that includes the Q&A, and it looks like we've got people with questions. So whatever your presentation is, I want to make sure everybody has time to ask questions. So I will turn it over to you right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'm serious. Just stretch for a second. You guys have been sitting, I don't know about you, those benches are so uncomfortable, but we're not in kindergarten anymore, so just stretch for a second. Because it's a lot of information. Take a deep breath, because you're gonna get a lot more information coming at you. So thank you for inviting us. My name's Colin. I'm the mayor, and I'm joined up here by Maribeth Bushey, who's a councilwoman for District 3, and Assistant City Manager John Stefanski. And we have no problem if you're standing during our portion too. I don't know about you, but I just cannot sit the way I used to be able to sit. So thank you to the coalition for having us. I'm always impressed on a gorgeous Saturday morning how many of you come out here to see each other and to get an update. So nice to see you. We'll get right to it. Okay, hold on. Alan? Oh, there we are. Okay, so Supervisor Sackett started with a little bit Government 101. We do the same thing, just because there are a lot of elected officials that represent you, and it's always good to have a quick primer. So in San Rafael, we went to district-based elections a couple years ago. So that's why you see individual photos for each of the districts. When I say Maribeth Bushey is your councilwoman, of course she represents all of San Rafael, and she's elected by District 3. I'm the only directly elected mayor in Marin County. That's how San Rafael was set up 150 years ago when we were set up. So, quick look at that. Okay, it's nice to know where you're going, where we're going in our conversation, and we're going to keep it brief. We're going to try to do the slides in about 15 minutes, so we have a lot of time for Q&A and anything we don't cover that hasn't already been covered by Supervisor Sackett or your committee reports. So we were asked, what are your goals and objectives for 23-25? Okay, that's a 2-hour presentation that we did at the council. You are not getting that presentation. You're gonna get a slide on that. We're gonna speak to our city accomplishments, which again, we could stand up here and speak for 45 minutes to all of our accomplishments, but we picked highlights: homelessness, transit, traffic. Councilwoman Bushey will talk about Point San Pedro, and then how you stay involved. This is part of staying involved, to being here, but it's all the other 300 plus days of the year that we want you to be involved with the city. Okay, so I can barely see the slide and I'm standing right next to it, so I know you all can't see it. But what it says is on the left-hand side are the different goal areas. So it has to do with neighborhood vitality, public safety, public assets, and then we focus to the policy areas: homelessness and housing, economic development, sustainability, specifically wildfire prevention, sea level rise, and then diversity, equity, and belonging. So those are kind of the overarching. When we look at our goals and objectives, we do 2-year goals and objective. Right now we're in 2024. Our goals and objective are 2023 to 2025. So definitely, if you are and by the way, these goals and objectives are pulled from our general plan, which is a really thick document. So it's really how do we prioritize our goals and objectives knowing that the general plan covers 20 years. So if you don't already, and I know Councilwoman Bushey will say this, but do subscribe to the snapshot. We'll bring it up a lot, the three of us, because that is where information about what's coming to the council and what's being discussed is presented to the community. And it's a newsletter, it's only every other week, so it's not gonna jam up your email inbox. Okay, so we're gonna do a little tag team up here, and I'm gonna turn it over to ACM Stefanski to talk about our accomplishments.
All right, thank you, Mayor Kate, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be back here. I was just thinking, I started with the city in July of last year, and this was one of my first community meetings that I got to speak to, so there's a special place in my heart for this coalition, because you always remember your first. So anyway, talking about some of our accomplishments and things that I think to highlight for this group is, I think most importantly, the city's in a really strong financial position. Earlier this year, the city council passed a balanced budget that includes our $112 million general fund budget as well as our $33 million capital improvement program budget. $33 million for all the things that we get to see, the fun things, the parks like Peacock Gap's new playground, as well as some of the roadway projects that we've seen in the city in recent years, like the 3rd Street project, as well as the Grand Avenue cycle track. And then a whole bunch of things that you don't necessarily get to see, like the work that goes into our storm pump system and a bunch of things that are underground that you can't necessarily see. The one thing I want to call out for you all is, and you can scan the QR code, this year our Public Works Department has developed a transportation work plan that goes through and highlights all of the projects and things that our Department of Public Works is working on. And you can go there and see at what point in time those projects that may be of interest to you are going to be starting. So it's a very large Gantt chart, so to speak, and we want to point you to that in case you have any other questions on when is this project going to start, or what other projects is the city working on in a given fiscal year. Similarly, I think a really large accomplishment for us is that earlier this year, the City Council approved 3-year contracts with all 12 of our labor groups, and this is fundamental to the way we operate as a city. These new contracts with our employee groups are ensuring that we are paying our employees a competitive wage, and it allows us to go out and recruit and retain the talent in a really tight labor market for local government. And that is so key to our ability to work on all the things that matter to you. And so just a couple of things that I'll call out of these labor agreements. There we go. Is how they've helped us with our recruitment for public safety. And so just in the last year alone, we've brought on 9 new police officers. We have 5 recruits right now that are going through the training program, and we have 1 cadet. Additionally, we've been able to bring on 9 new firefighter paramedics to ensure that our emergency services are able to remain fully staffed and strong. And so those labor agreements are the reason why we're able to go out and recruit those folks, because cities all across the Bay Area are struggling to hire and retain police officers, firefighters, engineers, most any part of the city's organization. It's hard to recruit and retain staff, and so those labor agreements are key to that. Switching gears to the downtown, there's a number of really exciting things that are going on in downtown San Rafael, and I just want to call out a couple things so you're aware. First of which is that we have a pop-up library in the old Beauty Expo building. This is on 4th Street. The Carnegie right now is undergoing some much needed basic life safety and critical infrastructure improvements. So I'm looking forward to the project being done, so I don't have staff calling me when it rains telling me that the first floor is flooded. So that all is going on. So we have the pop-up library on 4th Street. Marin Mocha is moving to downtown San Rafael, right across the street from the AC Marriott. We have the new Vivillon building that opened up in the last year, as well as, we are always working with the Chamber of Commerce to make sure we're supporting all of our small businesses in the downtown. So here's some more pictures of there's Marin Mocha, Fox and Kit, there's the pop-up library on the upper right-hand side. So a lot of really exciting things that are going on in downtown San Rafael. Something else that we want to call out is a new program from our economic development team. This is called San Rafael Go. This is our one-stop shop for all small businesses or any businesses that are looking to either relocate to San Rafael or they need help going through city processes. These are our staff members who are dedicated to making sure that we're able to support our small businesses to ensure that they're able to thrive and grow and expand and all the beautiful things they do for our city. And so if you want to learn more about that program, you can scan this QR code, and we're really proud of this program. I'll touch on sea level rise just a little bit. I know Supervisor Sackett did a really great job of kind of summarizing all the work. There's a ton of stuff that's going on in this space because San Rafael is going to be the most impacted city in the Bay Area when it comes to sea level rise. And so that's an existential issue for us to address over the coming years. But I can share that the city is working with the county, UC Berkeley, Canal Alliance, and Multicultural Center of Marin on a feasibility study that's community-led to look at what are the options and solutions and potential pathways forward for us to evaluate and ultimately choose in terms of responding to sea level rise. And so there will be a final draft of that report in 2025. So it's going to be a very big report, but once that's out, you'll see much more from the city to show you all how to get engaged in providing feedback on that. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Mary Kate.
Okay, I know Supervisor Sackett touched on homelessness, and again, this is a very lengthy, long conversation that's incredibly complex and nuanced and multi-layered. You're not getting that presentation today, you're getting the high-level presentation, and behind me is a timeline, and basically the font that you can't read talks about how the city's ordinance that we approved back July of 2023 that regulated time, place, and manner of camping in San Rafael. We received a federal court order that prevented us from doing any implementation. So we had a year in the courts working with that lawsuit. And fast forward today, we are now able to provide some services and programs that address both the encampments that we're seeing, which is a physical manifestation of homelessness in our community. And I know Supervisor Sackett talked on the numbers, and I already know, because I talk about this a lot, you can hear all the data. When you drive down and if you see an encampment, you're thinking, I don't know about that data because I just drove by that individual here. So encampments, again, are physical manifestation. In California, there's over 30%, a third of all the homeless in the United States is in California. And San Rafael being a moderately sized city of around 70,000, we're at a geographical crossroads. Yes, we're gonna actually have that issue to contend with here as well. And I'm really proud of what the city and the staff have been doing over the years to have two objectives. One, to be compassionate. I mean, that's a failed safety net. We have veterans who are living on our street. I don't know how any of us square with that, but the county's really made an effort to get veterans, and it goes from there. We have families on our streets. We have people who do not have that safety net. So the safety net's failed. So we need to be compassionate, meet people where they are, and there has to be order. So the solutions that we're putting in, the programs that we're putting in, the initiatives need to be effective. They need to work, and they take time. And I can tell you the three of us up here, as well as our council colleagues and the rest of the staff, we're committed to that time. I would love an easy answer on so many things that we work on. Homelessness is not an easy answer. It's not a quick fix. But what I can tell you is we have been methodical and we've had momentum and working with the county. And Supervisor Sackett, I want to really underscore the incredible partnership we have with the county. For the first time, so I joined the council in 2013 as Councilwoman Bushey. I became mayor in 2020. I have to tell you, in all those years, in working with the county, we never had a county administrator. So that's like the CEO of the county. In all those years, we never had a county administrator come to a city council meeting around homelessness. All those years. And it's not that we didn't ask. It's not that we didn't beg. I didn't quite get on my knee and plead, but I was pretty close. So the new county administrator, Derek Johnson, he came to a council meeting where we gave an update around homelessness, our plans around the encampments, because we can't do it without the county. And I gave him a shout out then, and I'm giving a shout out now, because this is a new era of partnership. And we are thrilled that the county hired Derek Johnson. As a little side note, he was a city manager for San Luis Obispo, which has the highest per capita number of homeless in California. He gets it, so he was on the city side, and now he's on the county side, so more to come on that. And the other critical part, so there's two parts. We're now able to implement our ordinance, time, place, and manner, and I'm not going to go into the ordinance details, but we're starting to implement it. And we just, did you have slides on the sanction? Okay, it'll come up. We have a sanctioned camping in area that is on the Mahone path. We have $6 million from the state of California. Those dollars were so competitive. The fact that San Rafael and the county got them was because when the state looks at all the programs that are going on in California, they see that the folks and the programs that we're doing here, folks are actually able to move to the next step towards housing. And so that is why we were able to effectively compete for those dollars. And I wish having a sanctioned encampment or having more case managers would just miraculously address the issue and all the folks could get from the streets into our housing. And that's just not realistic, and I know you all know that. But what I can tell you is we are committed up here. We're committed, the staff's committed, the council's committed, we're committed with the county. In fact, we now have joint regular meetings with the county just to talk about this issue. So we're committed to continue to have momentum and to build on the successes that we are having. Oh, so here's the photo. We had a tour of it 2 weeks ago. So they are, the city has contracts with 2 agencies that are providing both security and the case management. And while I'm proud that we're adding to this safety net, it also makes me really sad that this is something that we need to have in our community. That for whatever reason, the safety net isn't robust enough that people can just go from the streets into housing. They need that transitional step. This is a transitional step. And I know the supervisor has heard me say this before. Okay, this is good. You know, that this is gonna help. It's about 60 individuals. We know from when we had a sanctioned camping area before that the number of people who got case management, which is an integral first step. If you don't have case management, you are not getting the next step because the folks that are on our street have a lot of trauma and addiction and issues that they're dealing with. But we know when we had a similar, not as well run as this one, but really responsive one during the pandemic, 100% of those people, 95% of them had case management by the time that the sanctioned camping area was closed. So this is a good first step. What I really am hoping to keep pushing the county and working with is have a tiny home village type of area that has been successful in other parts of California. You know, there's always pros and cons to everything, but that would be more permanent. I don't know about you, but I was thinking about it when it was raining last night, right? And these are sturdy tents, and they're actually designed to handle the weather better. This whole sanctioned camping was set up with a contractor called FS Global. They have successive one up in Roanoke Park, so we learned a lot. They have learned a lot that they brought here. But anyway, so tiny homes, we continue to look for a site, and that has been a great transitional. That would be another great way to add to our safety net. Let's see what's next slide. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back over because we're just trying to keep it interesting. I'm not just one person, but we're happy to answer more questions on this. We could go very, very deep, but we wanted to give you a high level of where we are.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. And just, putting a pin on the discussion on homelessness, so the city does continue to work and collaborate with our service providers to ensure that those who need the help are getting the help and are getting connected with case managers through the county to help ensure that they're able to continue along their pathway to housing. Additionally, the City Council over the last couple of years has invested over $3 million in from our Affordable Housing Trust Fund towards affordable housing projects, including Jonathan's Place as well as the 3301 Kerner project, which should be coming online in early 2025. And then lastly, I think this is a really great statistic, is our SAVE team. This is an amazing alternative response program out of our police department that has responded to, in the last fiscal year alone, 3,100 calls for service, with more than half of those going towards individuals experiencing homelessness. So this is making sure that we're being smart about how we're deploying resources to those who need it, as well as alleviating some of the ongoing capacity and stress that comes from calls for service for our police department. Switching gears, talking just a little bit about traffic and public works. The first thing I'll add is that we are recruiting for a traffic engineer. So if any of you know a traffic engineer, or if you go to a city and you say, I like how they're doing things in terms of traffic and streets, let me know. I'll make a phone call. I will go and poach from another agency to get someone to come work for us. I'm all about bringing the best talent to San Rafael. But additionally, as I said earlier, we've had a number of new projects that have been completed in the last year, Grand Avenue as well as the 3rd Street project. Those are both complete. And then just a couple other quick notes here on the San Rafael Transit Center. You can learn more by scanning that QR code. This is going through the preliminary design phase right now, so they're still working through that designing of what that new transit center is ultimately going to look like. Additionally, if you want to learn more about the 101-580 project, some of the potential alternatives there, you can see here. Again, this is just trying to alleviate how northbound 101 just backs way the heck up for folks who are trying to get over on 580. So you can learn more on that website. Again, this is a project that TAM is heading up, but the city has been closely involved in making sure that we're providing feedback, because this is going to have a very big impact on this portion of our city. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off over to Councilmember Bushey for some points and updates.
Thank you, John. We're going to start with disaster management, which is where we all started this morning, walking in and seeing the coalition's disaster preparation manifested in its red truck and everything that they do. This is something the city works very closely with the coalition on. Although I also want to highlight and remind folks that this past year we reopened Station 55. Completely refurbished, modern, brought up to date. Before the changes there, it was a historic site, as could be most kindly described as. But I also want to remind folks that we voted the tax funding to pay for that renovation in 2013, the year we were first elected to the council. That's when Measure E was on the ballot. It took that long to get the money collected and get through the process. Now, granted, we did build the Dune Public Safety Center downtown. That was the highest priority. But it takes time, and you have to be thinking ahead, your tax dollars at work on bringing safety and disaster preparation right into our community. Along that same line, this year we celebrate the 150-year anniversary of the San Rafael Fire Department. I don't know how many of you got to go to the training center's open house. It was fantastic. They were shooting water all over the place and had our firefighters climbing up to the training tower. It was really great to see that level of professionalism, equipment, and practice right in our community right here. So thank you to the coalition for their work on disaster, and the city, everything that we're doing to be part of that as well. Next, pedestrian safety. This has been an issue on Point San Pedro Road since I moved here many years ago. Let's just say I was pushing a carriage the first time I walked along Point San Pedro Road, and the occupant of that carriage is now married. So I've been watching the traffic along that road for a long time. And there is actually finally a new idea that I'm hearing. We've done everything possible with speed limits. We've brought them up, we've been them down, there's yet another speed survey going on. But there's a new idea out there that I think might actually work. They call it visual friction. Hopefully we can get a new traffic engineer in here to come up with the manifestation of this idea. But it's basically bollards and things that you see along our project that John talked about on 3rd Street, where you sort of narrow the lanes and people just naturally slow down. That's the new idea that we're hoping will be able to finally crack that tough nut of people speeding on Point San Pedro Road. So next is the Esplanade. Oh, I love this one. That area, I'm so glad whoever came up with the name Esplanade deserves the gold star. It's such a great walkway, and it's such sort of a center of our community. I don't know how many of you were here when on September 11th when the attacks occurred, but many people just spontaneously went down there and lit candles. There were candles all along there. It was such a just a place for people to go and be together. And also, I know that area is also a great photographer's heaven. And I've seen amazing photos from that site, as well as some astronomical observations. So I think there's a great potential there, and so get your ideas in for the newly named Esplanade so that we can really find a way to make the most of that incredible asset in our community. All right, next up is Broom. Again, a thank you to the coalition. Where's Bonnie? You know I've been out there doing the broom. We've all worked on that. We have a new partnership with WRA, who is an environmental consultant to help us on our broom removal projects and coming up with better ways to do it. But very much encourage the coalition. Keep getting those annual broom removals organized, getting people out there. I know it's really helped in the entrance to China Camp. We worked there for several years, and it's really made a difference. But it is an ongoing project and will take a long time for us to really make some progress there. I want to hit you with a couple of numbers, 2 numbers. First number, 12. 12 is the number of employees we have in the City of San Rafael Parks Department. That Parks Department is responsible for, here comes more numbers, 25 parks covering 106 acres, 40 miles of roadsides and medians, 3.5 acres of multi-use paths and easement, the Terra Linda Pool, and the grounds around all of the city facilities, like our B Street Community Center, City Hall, and the Public Safety Center. 12 people do that. So yeah, it's a big task. They are amazing. We at the City of San Rafael, we are blessed with the best staff. You know, we usually say in the county, but my God, I think we can say in the Bay Area, maybe in the state. They are amazing, and they do so much for you. 12 people take care of all of that, including overseeing the medians, Point San Pedro Road medians, that program. That has to be managed. They do that. The Loch Lomond district, they oversee that as well. So it's a big project, a big task, a lot we ask of them, and they serve us every day in keeping what makes this area, our shared neighborhood, so special, come from these 12 individuals. So just wanted to just have a shout out to those 12. And then to the last one, it has to be a shout out to Sandy, people doing things. For 15 years, she has been bringing food to this meeting for 15 years. So everyone thank Sandy. Okay, and finally, stay engaged. How many of you subscribe to Snapshot? Come on, slackers, yeah.
Next year, everyone's going to raise their hand.
Everything. Next year, we're going to have 100%. That's where you hear everything. If you aren't subscribing, subscribe. You will be up to date on everything. That's the one way to catch us. And the other one, if you go on the website, you'll find See, Click, Fix. That is something that you should use. If you see something and you want it done, open up a ticket and See, Click, Fix. That is how you can interact best with the city. So again, Snapchat and See, Click, Fix.
Snapshot.
Snapshot. All right, Snapshot and See, Click, Fix. That's how you get in touch with the city. All right, that wraps it up. There you go. Stay connected with all of us. And are you ready for questions?
Yeah.
All righty. Okay. I'll be the moderator. Yes, ma'am.
Where is this Esplanade thing?
The Esplanade. See, we need a sign that says that. It's the sidewalk between the little county park, what is it called? Bayside Park, at the intersection of Main and Point San Pedro Road. And I guess I would say it goes all the way down to McNeil's. Yeah, the Brickyard. Well, I was thinking McNeil's Park actually, but Okay, see, we don't even know where it begins and ends, but we need a sign. Yes, there we go. Yeah, it's a new name, yes.
Concerning downtown, when are those trees going to be trimmed all along the street, all along 4th Street? They're out of control.
So the question was, when will the trees be trimmed along 4th Street? And so I don't have a specific answer for you, but what I can do is I'll check in with our maintenance crews and see where that is in the queue. I know right now what our teams are focusing on is storm prep. And so this is going through all of the drainage culverts, clearing out the trash racks, and making sure that once the rains start coming, which I mean, like, it's been raining this week, we need to make sure that we're ready to have those systems in place.
It's been like that for the last 20 years.
That's the way they are.
Yep.
See-click fix?
And we do love the twinkle lights on the trees, so that's the other part of it, yeah. Yep, you standing up, showing your phone to us.
Okay, I've got two easy ones for you. The first is a project that I wanted to mention to you in the summer because it would be great for kids, and that is something that might be entitled Free the Stop Signs. If you drive around San Rafael, and pretty much anywhere, you'll find that stop signs are obscured by trees and bushes and all sorts of things. And it would be great, like if you went on Mission at Jewel right before the high school, you cannot see that stop sign. It is so covered by trees. Forgetting the legality of it, it would be great for safety to have somebody in charge of a little project go around with some clippers and clip the bushes so you can actually see the stop sign. That's my first idea. And the second is, we're all familiar with the Painted Ladies in San Francisco, which is an iconic part of San Francisco. Well, every time I'm stopped at Irwin and 3rd, which is many times a day, I look at those little 4 or 5 houses along the street there, the French Quarter. They're all the same, and I say, why not paint those houses pink, blue, green, red, orange, whatever, and it would be a way of introducing San Rafael, getting on the map. It would be a really neat project, I think, so I recommend that to you.
Thank you. So the ideas that were put forward, and that's what another reason why we love coming out here is that we're always listening. I mean, those are fantastic. The first idea, in case you couldn't hear, was free the stop sign. And in terms of having students or other interested volunteers do that, in the meantime, do use See-Click-Fix to report it, or you can go out. I do clippers around my own stop sign where I live, I have to say. But great comment. And then the second comment was about the French Quarter, which is just a few row of houses, of having them spruced up, and the suggestion made was maybe having them painted to have them be a little bit more iconic. I love that idea. I think anything we can do to visually activate a space, and there are lots of ways to do it, is really, really unique. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
The building that was recently taken over by Dollar Tree on Grand and Point San Pedro, it's in horrible shape, the roof in particular, the tiles are falling off. Is there anything the city can do to get the owner to comply with maintenance?
So great question. As we all drive by Dollar Tree, which used to be a CVS, the building is just in disrepair. And just so you know, we often will get comments, not about that building, but other buildings throughout San Rafael that are in disrepair. The tools that we have are limited because they are private property, but I agree with you, it looks terrible. And sometimes a letter to the property owner, what makes it complicated is the big corporations, it's hard to get a hold of the real estate person. It's like it's even hard to figure out how to navigate it. But doesn't mean that we can't try, so let's try to check more information on that, because I agree.
A suggestion to the coalition, reach out to the property owner and let them know that we feel it's dragging down our community, and what are they doing about improving the appearance of it.
That's really good, it's beyond the high school.
Okay, well, I'm
right across from United. Yeah.
Right, okay. Or other groups to feel that they can, don't feel restrained. If it's bothering you, get someone to reach out to the property owner, because that's who can make the changes. And that is often very effective. They want to be a good neighbor most of the time, and give them an opportunity to be a good neighbor. So,
Can the city assist us in identifying who the property owner is?
You should be able to get that, actually, but it's in the county parcel map.
We can assist.
Yeah, we can
100%.
punch in there in the right way. The gentleman back there in the gray?
I have a housing element question. The 6 acres behind the school here is a parcel included in the housing element. I believe the housing element indicates 9, but the developer wants to put up to 22. 11 homes, 11 ADUs. Is there any activity on that lot at this point?
What developer? I don't think there's been a development.
Well, this is listed in the housing element.
Right, it's in the housing element, but I don't know that
Yes, it's called Escana Terrace.
Yeah, no one.
And the developer wants to put 11 market rate homes in with 11 ADUs. You've indicated only should have 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking about Glenwood School. This actual school, right up here. That's a very old proposal, isn't it? We don't have up-to-date information.
So that housing element is a required now element by the state of California in order to receive funding from the state. And everybody, I mean, all the jurisdictions in the state of California, just to provide a little bit of background information, has to show that our ordinances and our local policies could enable the building of over 3,200 units here in San Rafael over an 8-year period. So the housing element has many parcels that are identified. And just so you know, Councilmember Bushey and I were on the Planning Commission together. That housing element pretty much has the same parcels as was originally on the general plan 2 general plans ago. So we didn't add a lot, just so you know. So there have been a lot of parcels identified. And to your point, what that enables the developers to do is they can come forward with a proposed project. They work with the city staff in order to move it forward. So that specific one, I'm not aware of any formal process or any formal application, but I can assure all of you, any application that comes to the city goes through the public process, right? And so we're not going to prejudge it. We've received some emails about concerns about a proposed project up in Dominican, and we understand there are a lot of issues inherent in that project. None of us are going to prejudge that project before it comes to us through the formal public process. It's, to me, unethical, but it's also, we could run into real legal complications if we were to prejudge a project before it goes through the public process. So stay tuned. A good way on the website, which was one of the icons up here, if you go to, actually I can tell you after, because it's a little bit of a menu tree, but there's a fantastic web page that I send to people all the time that actually talks about the different projects that are coming through. So I'll find you after. Yes, right here.
John, you spoke to some of the new developments downtown, and by the way, I love the pop-up library.
Thank you.
Really well. I was wondering, do you have other initiatives to draw more businesses downtown into some of those storefronts, and is there any way you can attract more?
Yeah, great question. So the question is about how do we continue to activate our downtown corridor? As a reminder, our downtown corridor is like our heart and our soul of our economic community. The muscle is East San Rafael. So let's just be clear, the car dealerships, the big box, that's where the big tax dollars come in. But going to the heart and the soul, there is a lot going on there. We have new Pilates places, we have new art class place that's gone in. So when I ask people and they say, oh, there's an empty storefront, we definitely have some ones that are visually big. So where the pop-up went in is one of them. And so that's gonna change that. But I tell you, I go to ribbon cuttings almost every week downtown. So there's a lot of businesses coming in. So I urge all of you, don't buy your books on Amazon. If you do, do not tell me that. Go to Copperfields. I mean, we want to have a vibrant community. It means using and participating and frequenting the stores downtown. But to answer your specific question, we have an economic strategic plan that was developed in 2020, after I became mayor. I would think it's very important to not just be reactive, but be proactive. And it really looks at what are we going to be trying to do in the next 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years, to your point, and we have a plan. You can find it online, and a lot of it, the GO program that John mentioned, was one of the things identified when we spoke with business owners, because they said, I want to open up or expand my business. I don't know who to go to. So the GO program is a one door. So that's how we're getting at it. But I hear you, and we're gonna stay on it with all of you coming down to our downtown events, because that's really critical too. Hops and Vines was recently. We have some holiday events coming up as well. You can see it on the website. Yes, standing in the back.
Yes, you mentioned some funds ones that are coming to you from the state or that you're subjected to in terms of housing or other things? What are your big projects that you're waiting for money for from the state?
So I think the question, I'm trying to clarify, when we talk about the housing element, which is a required element, there is a nexus there, there is some sticks if the city doesn't have an approved housing element. Your question, I think you're asking is, well, what's that stick? What would you not be getting? We have an approved housing element, so I actually don't even know what that stick would be because ours was approved. Yeah. You've already asked one, how about the gentleman behind you? And then I think we got a ping, which means that we'll have 2 more questions, and then, yes, because you brought all the food here, and then we'll be around for a few minutes before we go to the next thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank you for John and Maribeth for your availability. It's been outstanding. So, as far as answering questions and so on. I have a question about the homeless and parks in San Rafael. We have 22 parks in San Rafael. 4 of them along the Point San Pedro, in the communities in Point San Pedro, and 2 specifically on Point San Pedro. One is the new Bayside Park, and one is not really known. It's the actual berm itself, which on the city website is defined, half of it is defined as a park. So the question I have is, John, you replied to a request that I sent through to you that the city has not taken any action to specifically prohibit camping at the Peacock Gap Park. Camping on public property is permitted throughout the city and is regulated by the ordinance. The campsite size and setback requirements are available, and properties prohibited to camping by the City Council are Boyd Park and Albert Park. So my question, one other point to be made, and that is that the ordinance that has just been passed has reduced the original 200 feet between campsites. Judge Edward Chen requested that it be 100 feet, and that has been reduced by the city, your ordinances, to 10 feet between campsites. So that, of course, increases the density of any kind of camps that are allowed on these parks at this point. So my question is to why is the San Rafael City Council reserving the right for homeless people to camp in parks, especially after the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling? And the City Council has mentioned that you're unable to find alternative sites for the homeless. So are they going to be using the parks for this purpose?
Yeah, great question. As I said, we do have online, if you go to the city website, where the little magnifying glass is, put in the word homelessness, and you can go to the website page, and there's 2 webinars. There's a video, there are small videos, there's a story map, there's FAQs that can go very, very deep on all of the answers. The one that I do want to address out of, because you were talking about some of the decisions that have been made, was why has the city council passed the ordinance that we have? There is not a place in the state of California where camping is banned, and I don't want to have a legal class right now, but the Supreme Court ruling doesn't enable jurisdictions to ban camping. And to think about that just from a practical, if you don't know me, one thing I can tell you right now, I'm a very pragmatic person. We are going to use the tax dollars and the resources we have here to be effective. And so even if that were a legal option, I cannot even imagine how you could ever ban encampments or homelessness. And I hate having to say that, because that is just an indictment of our society. But having said that, we are going to continue to channel our resources to help people move from the streets into housing. And I'm happy to have additional, we can talk after, because I want to get to one more, because there's a sign and a pinging going on. I have 1 minute. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to thank Andy's Market for providing delicious food through his wonderful catering department over 10 years now. So downtown is awesome, but we also have Andy's.
Oh, everybody loves Andy.
And Sandy, thank you for ending on that. Thank you, Andy, and we'll just close out. Thank you all for coming out on a gorgeous Saturday morning. We'll be here for just a few minutes, and then it's Day of the Dead today over at Pickleweed. They have altars. That's where I'm headed off to right after this. They're until 3 o'clock, so there's always a lot going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Derek Page, Maribeth Bushey, Dr. Stefanski, with a great presentation. And also, I want to thank all of you for being here. I so appreciate both the city and the county coming here. Mary Sackett, our supervisor. It's wonderful to get both the city and the county in the same room at the same time, because those of us, I live in the county, I don't live in the city. And, you know, we go up and down the road, we go city, county, city, county. We often have issues that involve both, and we love having this collaboration between the city and the county, getting them all in the same room at the same time. And we love having our residents here to talk to our committee folks, so please stay and ask your questions. Before I say goodbye, I just want to hand the mic to Alan Shavitz for just a moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject that the video that's being done right now by Mike here, the beautiful video, he's going to process it and I'll have it on the website, along with the slideshows that you saw, both sets. So the typing on it that you probably couldn't read from your seat, and the scan codes you'll be able to do from home.
Great, thank you so much. And if you missed the beginning, you came late, there's a lot you'll be able to see on that video, so check it out when it gets posted. And just be sure you come and talk to us. We can talk more about the Esplanade. We can talk about a lot of the issues that came up today. We have lots of ideas, and we want your ideas as well. So please come and please support your local nonprofit. Thank you.